Usually when we think about a vocabulary list, it immediately summons up like these deeply traumatic memories of middle school flashcards.
Oh, absolutely. Just stacks of index cards.
Right. There's this expectation of static data entry.
Mhm.
You stare at the card, you mentally log the definition, you pass the test, and then you just file it away in the back of your brain where it gathers dust.
Yeah, it's treated exactly like a transaction.
Totally.
And honestly, it feels safe, doesn't it? Like, we really crave that illusion that learning is just collecting discrete facts and putting them in these neatly labeled boxes.
Because passive consumption doesn't require any real vulnerability.
Exactly. You don't have to put yourself out there.
But then you look at how human beings actually acquire and use language to navigate a chaotic world, and suddenly that whole flashcard model just completely falls apart.
Right, it shatters.
Yeah. We are no longer looking at simple data storage. We are looking at, well, an architectural blueprint for how we construct reality. So welcome to today's deep dive. Today we are dissecting a transcript from day 11 of an English learning curriculum to really understand how 10 everyday words are essentially weaponized to build fluency.
And it's such a fascinating document.
It really is. Our mission today is to uncover how foundational vocabulary is constructed and taught, and we are going to analyze why these 10 very specific words were selected as the vital building blocks for this exact stage of a learner's journey.
Because when you really scrutinize this specific set of 10 words, you realize you aren't just looking at a random assortment of verbs and nouns.
Right, it's not arbitrary.
Not at all. It is a highly curated ecosystem, and it's designed to force a cognitive evolution.
Okay, let's unpack this, because at first glance, this document just looks like a standard worksheet.
Yeah, fill in the blanks, matching, all of that.
But underneath the surface, it's a masterclass in how humans learn to articulate intention and action. And for you listening, whether you are trying to brush up on a language or, master a new technical skill like Python, or even just trying to communicate more effectively at work.
Which we all are.
Exactly. The mechanics of how we acquire these complex concepts and how we move from passive memorization to active, unscripted usage, well, that is universally relevant.
It's the core of all learning, because that transition from merely knowing a concept exists to actually deploying it in real time, that is the highest friction moment in any learning process.
It's terrifying.
It is. It requires crossing a massive psychological threshold.
Which brings us to the philosophy of active acquisition that this source lays out right out of the gate. The lesson establishes this brutally strict framework before it even introduces a single piece of vocabulary.
Yeah, they do not mess around.
They don't. The core mantra of day 11 is explicitly stated as, quote, don't just memorize, understand and use the words.
That's the foundation right there.
And they lay out this mandatory 4-step rhythm. Listen, repeat, speak, practice. And they enforce this with specific exercises like a quick quiz for matching concepts to words, a speaking challenge for generating original sentences, and a fill-in-the-blank section to force contextual awareness.
It's a relentless, unapologetic push toward actual application.
Yeah.
The curriculum designers clearly know that traditional rote memorization leaves you with massive potential energy, but like zero kinetic energy.
Right. It's like having a garage full of really expensive tools, but you never actually build anything.
Exactly. You might know all the terminology, but you remain completely paralyzed when called upon to actually perform or build the thing.
But here's where I'm going to push back on the text just a little bit, because something in their methodology seems incredibly counterintuitive.
Oh, interesting. What part?
Well, in the speaking challenge section, the instructions explicitly tell the learner to pick 5 words, formulate their own sentences, say them out loud, and then it literally commands, don't worry about mistakes, just speak. If the ultimate goal of a language curriculum is to teach correct grammar and precise usage, telling a student to deliberately ignore their mistakes feels incredibly risky.
It feels wrong, right?
It does. Doesn't that risk baking in bad habits? If you pour a concrete foundation incorrectly, the whole house sinks. So why does the curriculum explicitly encourage failure?
Well, this raises an important question, right? About the distinction between a performance error and a competence error.
Break that down for us.
So at day 11, the source isn't testing for grammatical perfection. It's testing for neurological application.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. When you are learning any complex new system, whether that's a foreign language, complex coding syntax, whatever, perfectionism acts as an effective filter.
An effective filter.
Yeah. It physically blocks the brain from processing input and generating output. So by explicitly stating don't worry about mistakes, the curriculum is deliberately shifting the cognitive load.
So they were implicitly trying to lower the stakes so the student actually moves, like just get off the starting line.
Precisely. They are forcing the learner to transition from a passive consumer of information to an active creator.
I see.
When you have to select the words and invent an original sentence out of thin air, you bear the entire weight of the language. You are doing the heavy lifting.
Because you aren't just reciting a script anymore.
Exactly. And from a neuroplasticity standpoint, the mistakes are completely irrelevant at this stage because the actual act of generating the sentence is what paves the neural pathways.
Right.
You can refine the grammar later, but you cannot refine silence.
Wow. You cannot refine silence. I love that.
It's true.
It perfectly captures why overcoming that initial friction is so absolutely critical. I mean, for you listening, if you're learning a new skill right now
Yeah.
and you are paralyzed by the fear of looking foolish, you're just trapping yourself in that passive consumption phase.
You're stuck in the garage with the tools.
Exactly. But overcoming that friction is really only half the battle, because once you are actually speaking and putting information out into the world, the immediate challenge becomes surviving in a social ecosystem.
Right, because language is inherently social.
It is. And the lesson reflects this beautifully with the first cluster of words it introduces. So the words are notice, offer, promise, and explain.
Such a fascinating sequence of words.
Yeah. We immediately move from the isolated mechanics of how to learn straight into the fundamental vocabulary of human interaction.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked at these 4 words, and I realized we aren't just looking at random verbs. If you look at their exact definitions in the text, we are tracking a very specific trajectory of escalating social commitment.
Escalating commitment. I like that.
Yeah, think about the progression here. You start with notice, which the text defines as to see or become aware of something, like noticing a new sign.
Right.
You're passively taking in your environment. It requires zero vulnerability. But then you step up to offer, which is willing to give or do something, like offering someone water.
You're initiating.
Yes, you make a voluntary gesture to give something of yourself. And then you escalate to a promise, defined as to say you will definitely do something, like promising to practice every day.
You are literally locking yourself into a binding social contract at that point.
Exactly. And finally, you arrive at explain, which means to make something easy to understand. This requires you to ensure that there is a mutual shared reality between you and another human being.
We connect this to the bigger picture. I mean, these 4 concepts are the fundamental mechanisms of social trust.
Right.
You cannot successfully integrate into a new society, a new workplace, or a new culture without these pillars.
No, you really can't.
You need the observational awareness to, notice the dynamics around you.
Mhm.
You build initial goodwill through the ability to offer assistance. You establish long-term reliability by knowing how to make and keep a promise.
Yeah.
And you resolve inevitable conflicts or bridge cognitive gaps through the
This-
ability to explain.
It's essentially a toolkit for community integration, just brilliantly disguised as a vocabulary list.
It really is.
They are prioritizing the exact language required to build a support network. Because if you can't connect with the people around you, having a massive vocabulary of obscure nouns isn't going to help you survive.
No. The sequence demands that the learner project themselves outward. They are learning how to be a reliable actor in a shared environment.
But once you establish that baseline of social trust, the demands on you change again, right?
Oh, absolutely.
You can't just react to other people forever. Eventually, you have to be able to communicate your own internal logic.
Yes.
You have to articulate your past, your thoughts, and your justification for being there. Which leads us to the second conceptual cluster in the source material. And those words are decision, experience, and reason.
The architecture of the internal world.
Right.
We move from the external social contract to internal agency.
Exactly. It's like giving a driver the steering wheel. If words like notice and offer are the physical bricks of a relationship, abstract nouns like decision and reason are the mortar.
That's a great way to put it.
Because you can't hold a decision in your hand, right? You can't point to a reason sitting on a table.
No, they are totally abstract.
But without that mortar, the entire structure of communication falls apart. The text defines a decision as a choice made after thinking, and reason as the cause or explanation for something. These words give a person agency.
They explain the why behind an action.
Yes. And then experience, which is knowledge or skill gained by doing, grounds that person in reality. It is the historical weight of the road they have already traveled.
And we have to acknowledge these are significantly heavier cognitive concepts than the first cluster.
Oh, for sure.
They require a much higher order of thinking to deploy effectively, especially in a new language.
Which brings up a really fascinating structural choice in the text.
Yeah.
Right as the curriculum introduces these specific, heavy, abstract nouns, it interrupts the standard flow with a highly targeted pronunciation practice segment.
Oh, right. I noticed that.
Yeah. The lesson explicitly isolates these multisyllabic words and breaks them down rhythmically. It literally forces the learner to sound out decision, experience, reason. Why completely stop the momentum of the lesson to focus on the phonetic breakdown of these 3 words specifically? How does that aid memory?
Well, it is a brilliant pedagogical safety net.
A safety net.
Yeah, because these words represent abstract, multisyllabic concepts. They carry a massive intimidation factor for a novice.
Oh, I see.
When a word feels too big or too complex in the mouth, a learner will actively avoid using it, even if they understand the definition perfectly.
Right, they just won't say it.
Exactly. So by breaking a massive concept like experience down into a physical, rhythmic mouth movement, the curriculum systematically removes the fear.
It takes the terror out of the abstract by making it entirely mechanical, just syllables.
Exactly. And from a psychological standpoint, this is about equipping the learner for self-advocacy.
How so?
Think about navigating a bureaucratic system or a doctor's appointment or a job interview in a second language.
Terrifying.
If you cannot confidently articulate why you did something, your reason, or explain the choices you've made your decisions, you are entirely at the mercy of others.
Wow. Yeah.
You become a passive participant in your own life. By making the vocabulary of internal agency phonetically approachable, the curriculum empowers the learner to literally stand their ground.
That is profound. If you can't articulate your reason, you can't defend yourself.
Right.
It makes you realize how vital it is to have the language to justify your own existence in a new space.
Absolutely.
And that newly unlocked sense of empowerment and agency naturally propels the learner toward the final thematic phase of this curriculum. Because once you are making decisions and accumulating experience, you inevitably arrive at outcomes.
You have to measure your progress.
You'd have to be able to measure where you are going and what you have achieved. And this is where the curriculum introduces the final 3 words: result, success, and goal.
The destination vocabulary.
Yes.
We've moved from present interaction to past justification to future ambition.
And here's where it gets really interesting. The lesson doesn't just list these words with their definitions, like, a goal being something you want to achieve, or a result being what happens because of an action.
Right. It goes further.
It embeds them in a mini conversation between the curriculum's hosts and a character named Emma, who is herself a language learner. And Emma utilizes these exact new words to describe her real-time journey within the curriculum. She states, quote, "My goal is to speak English confidently."
Yeah.
When asked about her progress, she notes that noticing improvement is a great result. And the dialogue concludes with the shared agreement that applying her experience will ultimately lead to success.
It's a completely metacognitive layer of instruction.
It really is.
The curriculum is using the target vocabulary to describe the act of mastering the target vocabulary.
It's like an Inception-level feedback loop.
Totally.
But why do this on day 11? Like, why focus so heavily on the specific vocabulary of achievement at this exact moment?
What's fascinating here is how the timing of this vocabulary injection addresses a very specific psychological hurdle.
Okay, tell me more.
Think about the life cycle of any new habit or learning endeavor. Day 1 and day 2 are fueled by pure novelty and adrenaline.
You're super excited. You buy all the gear.
Exactly. But by day 11, that initial dopamine hit has entirely worn off.
Oh, completely.
The reality of the grind has set in, and the learner is staring up at a massive mountain of remaining work. This is the exact moment where the highest percentage of people quit.
The day 11 slump. You're in that messy middle where nothing feels easy anymore.
Precisely. By deliberately teaching the words goal, result, and success right at this specific friction point, the curriculum is doing much more than expanding a dictionary.
Right.
It is equipping the learner with the psychological vocabulary to survive the slump.
Wow.
If you do not possess the working vocabulary to articulate a goal, it becomes cognitively agonizing to visualize the finish line.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And if you lack the language to define a result, you cannot accurately measure your own incremental progress.
So they are secretly installing like a psychological survival kit into the lesson plan.
They are providing the language of persistence. They are giving the learner the exact mental scaffolding required to push through the exhaustion of day 11 and actually make it to day 12.
The language of persistence. I mean, that completely changes how I view this entire document.
It's powerful.
This isn't a vocabulary list. It's a masterfully disguised blueprint for self-actualization.
Yes.
Across just 10 words, this curriculum provides the tools to interact and bind yourself to a community through offering and promising. It provides the mortar to establish your internal agency and advocate for yourself through articulating decisions and reasons.
Right.
And it supplies the metrics to measure your own forward momentum through goals and results.
It covers the social present, the reasoned past, and the ambitious future. It essentially gives the learner total temporal control over their narrative.
And this methodology directly translates to whatever complex system you are currently trying to decode in your own life.
Absolutely, it's universal.
We are all constantly drowning in severe information overload. So the next time you are staring down a terrifyingly dense technical manual, or a massive stack of industry research, or even just trying to understand a new operational framework at your company, remember the mechanics we uncovered today.
You have to force the transition.
You have to force the transition from passive reading to active creation.
Yeah.
As the lesson's closing advice says, learn, repeat, use, practice, improve.
Because you cannot leave the tools sitting untouched in the garage, no matter how well you have memorized their names.
Exactly. You have to bear the weight of the new information. Take whatever complex concept you've gathered today and force yourself to use it immediately. Explain it to a colleague, write an unprompted summary, draft a proposal, and do not worry about making a mistake in your initial application, because the friction of that first flawed attempt is exactly where the actual comprehension is forged.
Knowing a concept is a static state. Applying a concept is a dynamic state. The real learning only happens in motion.
So what does this all mean?
Yeah.
We started this deep dive talking about how vocabulary lists usually feel like broken X-ray machines. You know, static, clinical, and completely incapable of capturing the messy, active reality of human life.
Right.
But by dissecting day 11, we've seen how 10 carefully selected, seemingly simple words actually serve as the structural steel for human trust, the phonetic armor for self-advocacy, and the psychological fuel for forward momentum.
It proves that language isn't just something we use to describe our reality. It is the actual mechanism we use to construct it.
And I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over today, something for you to explore on your own that builds on this entire idea of linguistic construction.
Oh, I like where this is going.
In the study of linguistics, there is a prominent theory known as the Sapir-Whorf hypothesis.
Right, linguistic relativity.
Exactly, which essentially argues that the specific language we speak actively shapes and limits the way we're capable of thinking.
The words we know define the boundaries of our reality.
Right. So if that's true, consider the ultimate implication of this curriculum design. Does mastering the specific targeted words for goal, decision, and success early in a learning journey actually rewire a learner's brain to be fundamentally more successful than someone who is only taught basic, concrete nouns and verbs first?
Oh, wow.
By giving a student the exact high-order vocabulary for achievement during their most vulnerable moment of learning, do they literally speak that success into existence?
Now that is a profound question. Does naming the destination actually build the road to get there?
Something to think about the next time you decide to learn something new or the next time you are tasked with teaching someone else. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.